So in this video we're looking at example 1. This is from the module 0.2.3 on slope, and we're trying to determine the slope between 2 points. And so the value that I got out was negative 1/2. This is the second video in that section. So let's go ahead and take a look at see how you get that value. Example 1 is a basic problem. We're just looking to find the slope between 2 points. So let's go ahead and graph that guy out. Now I know that you don't have to always graph things out. We can do this just out with the numbers. But what I think is important about graphing, here we go. What I think is important about graphing an equation, oh, that didn't slide all the way over, did it? Let's try it again. Is that when you graph it out, you get a feel for where the points are and what the slope should look like and such. And so I think by graphing it out, you can tell if you made an error or not, or you can tell if the answer that you got is consistent with what you see geometrically. Okay, so let's go ahead and plot these points. So I'm at 1 over 5 up. Okay, so here's a point. That's point P. And then point Q is negative 3, 7. Okay, so that guy's up here. Now if you look between these two guys, if I go ahead and I put my line in there, we'll just eyeball her in. Okay, so there's my line. If you look at that line, it's clear that the slope is negative. What does that mean? That means that there is a negative relationship. So there is a negative relationship between the variable x and the variable y. Essentially what this means is that as x increases, meaning as we go to the right, y decreases. Or as x decreases, y increases. Okay, so we've got this relationship where they go in opposite directions, and that's important, right? I mean, if you're looking at a variable, I don't know, you're looking at some kind of system that you've set up in like the physics classroom or whatever it happens to be, and you notice that there's this negative relationship between the two variables, well, that tells you something, right? And so that's what this is here. Now, if we calculate the slope's pretty easy to do. This is just computation. So we need the changes in the y divided by the changes in the x. So the change in the y is 7 minus 5. 7 minus 5. The change in the x is from negative 3 minus 1. So from here to here. So 7 minus 5 gives me 2. Negative 3 minus 1 gives me negative 4, or negative 1/2. So what this says is that every time I go down 1, I go to the right 2. Down 1 to the right 2. Notice that I end up back at this spot over here. More importantly, it tells me that as y decreases by 1 unit, x increases by 2. Now, there we're saying that the y is controlling the x, that the y is the independent variable, and typically you'd say that the x is the independent variable. Now, that's not always the case. In economics, we often consider, the independent variable to actually be on the y-axis, but it's very traditionally done on the x-axis. Likewise, you could take this, negative 1/2, and you could just call it negative 0.5 over 1, or just negative 0.5. And what that tells us is as x increases by 1 unit, y decreases by 0.5. Now, I went through that kind of quick, but you should think about how I got those values out. The interpretation of the slope is much more important than actually calculating it.